In a quiet American town, a journalist was found dead in his apartment. They called it suicide, but what he uncovered before he died was never meant to be found. This is the story they tried to erase. If you're into dark secrets, forbidden investigations, and real-life conspiracies, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear may not stay online for long.
In the quiet town of Hollow Creek, a journalist named Thomas Reed was found dead in his apartment, an apparent overdose. But something didn't feel right. Thomas had been working on a story. A big one. His notes were missing, but one word remained scribbled in his journal. Redbird. Julia, his sister, didn't believe it was suicide. He was afraid, she said. He told me, if anything happens to me, don't trust the report. Thomas's last known contact was a former government scientist. But he'd vanished 2 weeks before the death. Vanished without a trace. The autopsy revealed something strange, a microchip lodged at the base of Thomas's neck. The coroner didn't include it in the final report. Sheriff Dalton, new to the town, found the omission suspicious. When he questioned the coroner, the man refused to speak and resigned the next day. Julia and the sheriff joined forces. They discovered Thomas had been investigating a biotech company, Redbird Industries, on the outskirts of town. The company had shut down months ago, leaving behind a facility overgrown and forgotten. Or so it seemed. They broke in at night. Inside were empty labs, overturned desks, and a locked sub-level elevator with a keypad requiring a biometric scan. They found a severed fingerprint in the desk drawer. It was preserved in a vial. Desperate times, Dalton muttered, and pressed it to the scanner. Sheriff Dalton hesitated, then forced the door open. A cold gust hit them, behind it, a staircase spiraling into darkness. At the bottom, they found medical beds, surveillance equipment, and vials labeled Test Subject 14A. Something illegal had been happening here. Julia, desperate for justice, started digging on her own. She found a hidden note in Thomas's old camera bag. It read, "Mayor knows." Mayor Holbrook had been quiet about the murder. Too quiet. Julia demanded answers, but the mayor refused to speak. That night, the mayor's car exploded outside his home. No injuries, but a clear message: someone was cleaning up. The FBI got involved. They took over the investigation and sealed all evidence related to Project Redbird. National security, they said. Locals whispered about disappearances. People who had visited the lab before it was shut down. None had returned. Sheriff Dalton went rogue. "They're burying something," he told Julia. "And I think Thomas got too close." Julia received an email from an anonymous sender. Attached, a blurry video of Thomas being followed days before his death. She looked closer, and gasped. The man following Thomas wore a Hollow Creek police badge. Julia couldn't believe it. A local officer involved? She confronted Sheriff Dalton, but he didn't seem surprised. "There's a reason I never trusted my own department," Dalton said. "Too many secrets. Too many silences." They agreed to dig deeper, together. Their first stop, the last person to interview Thomas before his death. A former Redbird scientist in hiding. He spoke in whispers. "Redbird wasn't a biotech firm. It was a front. We were testing behavioral control on people. Test Subject 14A, he claimed, had escaped. And Thomas had found him, right before he died. The scientist gave them coordinates deep in the woods. If he's still alive, he's not who he used to be." They found a shack. Isolated. Hidden. No signs of life, until Julia noticed movement in the window. Inside, walls were covered in drawings, numbers, and one repeated word. "Remember." A man sat in the corner, trembling. The man, Subject 14A, looked at them with eyes full of terror. "They're coming. You shouldn't have found me." Suddenly, headlights approached from the trees. Black SUVs. No license plates. "Run," he whispered. Julia, Dalton, and the man ran out the back. Shots rang through the trees. Whoever they weren't law enforcement. They barely escaped. Hiding in an abandoned ranger station, Subject 14A revealed everything. Redbird was testing mind-altering tech on unwilling civilians. Thomas was going to expose them. That's why they silenced him, the man said, his voice shaking. "And now, they'll come for you." Dalton sent Julia away to safety. "I'll finish this," he said. He planned to leak everything to the press. But he never got the chance. Dalton disappeared that night. No sign of struggle, no message, just silence. The file he worked on was wiped clean. Julia went into hiding. But she sent copies of Thomas's findings to every major news outlet. Only one published a story. It was quickly taken down. No one mentioned Redbird again. The facility was demolished. Government officials called it routine clearance. Years passed. Hollow Creek rebuilt. But Julia never stopped looking. And one day, she got a letter. No return address. Just 5 words. "He's still out there. Watching." Julia looked up. Across the street, in the shadows, stood a man. Motionless. As if waiting. Then, he turned and vanished into the night. The story never made national headlines. But in Hollow Creek, everyone knows, the truth was buried, along with those who got too close. Julia moved to a new city, changed her name. But paranoia followed her. She often felt watched, especially at night. One night she found a red bird feather on her doorstep. No explanation. No one nearby. Just the feather. She contacted the journalist who had briefly published the Redbird story. He hadn't forgotten. "They threatened my family," he admitted. He sent her something, an old photo of Thomas with Subject 14A. They were smiling. Friends, not strangers. Suddenly, everything clicked. Thomas wasn't just exposing Redbird. He had once been part of it. She dug deeper and found classified documents Thomas had encrypted. Redbird's final phase. Total civilian surveillance using neural tagging. The project wasn't shut down. It was renamed. Repackaged. And according to the documents, it was still active. Julia realized something terrifying. Everyone who had helped her was now gone. Everyone except her. A final message arrived. "Tell no one, or you'll end up like Thomas." She knew they were watching. Listening. She's never spoken publicly. But sometimes, late at night, she writes it all down, just in case someone, someday, is brave enough to finish the story.